let me ask you a big question. So we're a Christian group, and we like to ask questions that make people think.
Okay.
So do you think God can love a person like Hitler?
I think we know very little about God and what God would be capable of. So do I think that it's possible for some God to love a person like Hitler? Yeah, for sure it's possible, because we don't know absolutely anything about God.
Okay. If we looked around, can we conclude that God is creative?
I don't think we can make really any conclusions about God outside of the fact that us individually are alive. Like, I personally believe in God, but I don't think there's really very many conclusions we can make outside of like our own personal experience.
Right. So if he was a loving God, he'd probably have to give us a sign or a language in order for us to have a relationship with him. You don't think?
No, I don't think so at all. No, like I mean, you can think of a lot of types of loving gods that maybe it's all a test, and maybe there's a loving God out there who wants you to pass the test without being in communication with him. Maybe it's all a test, and maybe there's a loving God out there who wants you to pass the test without being in communication with him or her.
Dang, that's a hard test, man. You're not a test person, are you? You're not the person that makes the school test or anything like that, are you? Okay, man, you would make some difficult tests. Okay.
It's hard to know what God would think or be or do or think.
Yeah, we believe language is very important. So we believe that he's left us a manual, that he's left us a language in order for us to consider. That'd probably be the logical reason, not just the faith I feel good reason, but that the logical side of us would say, hey, God's left us a manual. He just didn't just throw us in the dark and say, hey, go find the flashlight or something.
It'd be nice. So, it'd be nicer. Are you talking about the Bible? I'm guessing?
Yeah, so I'm referring back to the Bible. We believe that's his language that he left to us in order for us to have a guide. And we know that a lot of other religions are not narrow to that perspective of Jesus Christ being the answer. They're more to the perspective of there's many ways to God. And so it's weird because Christianity seems to be attacked on a different way. We don't use any other God's name in vain other than the Christian God. We say this and that, you know what I mean? But we don't say Allah dang it or whatever, right? So it kind of just makes you think, why is Christianity so pointed out to? Did somebody have an encounter somewhere along the timeline that really confirmed that Jesus was real? That the language of the Bible is real?
I think if there's a God and God wanted to communicate to everybody that the Bible is the true language, if the God is all-knowing, all-powerful, like, it doesn't really make much sense to me that like there'd be an absolute definitive, there'd be like words in the sky that say like, hey, the Bible is the language, like, follow it. Like, I mean, that's where you get to like the whole faith thing. But if there was a God that really wanted the Bible to be the language that you speak to him with, like, he should give a better sign to modern day, like, yeah, maybe, okay, I know the whole thing is he sent Jesus to be that messenger, but like, we don't have any like true physical evidence of Jesus being the Son of God like here today. So it's like, if he wanted that to be his language, like, give a better sign, like.
Yeah. Some people would say the evidence of an empty tomb, and
it's not conclusive. It's not conclusive enough, and it's not like historical enough to combat like people who don't believe it. So
the historical side would be that there's many witnesses, many people still talk about it till this day. That event.
If that's true, whether or not that's true, like, leads into, it doesn't matter if that's true or not. What matters is that the evidence isn't convincing to everyone on the planet for that to be the love language with God, right? Like,
well, I think all evidence would be very important. Like any criminal case, every speck of evidence is probably important to the case. And I think for the case of God and his existence, I think all evidence is important. The fact that we have life that we're the only known species out here in this very huge, massive universe that, even with our very great technology of telescopes and things like that, and our being able to touch space and being able to go to other places in space, and being able to see this great endless infinity of space out there, and for us to think that, like, wow, we're either really special or that was a really great accident that happened.
I'm with you there. I'm totally with you there. Completely. Like, I think to me that is some evidence pointing towards there being like a God, but like the characteristic of God, to me, that only leaves evidence that there's like a creator, and it doesn't give much evidence beyond that. It's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel something for God? Do you ever have like a
gratitude towards the creator, I guess? Like, like I like lean to be like, lean kind of science engineering minded, and I think like I believe in pretty much most popular science of what's traditionally understood has happened, like with the Big Bang and going back to that. But then it's like, where did the Big Bang come from? Was there a creator before that? Was there not a creator before that? That's the question of God to me. And it's like,
those are good questions. Lee Strobel had those kind of questions.
And it's like, I lean towards thinking that there probably was a creator, like between those two. Whether or not Jesus became, or was the Son of God in terms of that, I think that's a completely different question. But I feel gratitude towards the creator for sure, like very often. Like,
sure. Let me leave you with a thought. We don't try to bash people or anything like that. Let me leave you with a thought, though, something to provoke the mind. There's a great quote by C.S. Lewis, a great thinker, the guy who created Chronicles of Narnia. He was real good friends with the guy who created Lord of the Rings before he passed away. He said something along the lines of, if I have a desire in which nothing this world can fulfill, it's because I was made for another world. And he was concluding to the intimate part of him, the inside part of him that no one else could see. And like the wind, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but like the wind, we know it's there, we can't see it, but we sure can feel it. And sometimes it's not the logical part of us that understands God. Sometimes it's that feeling part of us that understands the presence of God. And so that's just a good thought to think about as you think about God. Has this interview made you think about God just a little bit?
I mean, I think about God all the time, really. Like, I'm not like super practicing, but I think about God like a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It's really nice.
Yeah, he's all about relationships.